I don't know why I'm like slightly nervous. This is just a stupid idea I had. This is the first episode of my Logbook Lore Letter Live. Basically, I have now caught every fish in the game, and I have also completed the sightseeing log. And if you don't know about those two features in this game, there's a lot of text and actual like lore hidden behind all that content. And I was like, damn, that's a lot of text just go through and read. I was like, why not just, read it on stream? That people can hang out and maybe learn a thing. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know which one I want to start with, the sightseeing log or the fishing log. I didn't decide that yet. But, I mean, I'm gonna get through both of them, probably not all today. I guess I'm hiding my chat. I can hide my chat cover. There we go. I think sightseeing log is what we'll start with. So the sightseeing log is just, there are a bunch of points in the world that you can go to and do an emote at, and then you get a little blurb about the area and a little like vista portrait. And they're all divided by what expansion they're in, and they're like subdivided a little bit in the pages. Like it's going to be a lot of Limsa stuff first, and then Gridania, and then Ul'dah. Yeah. Let's do a reading. I think what they actually added, like a little pop-up you get whenever you do the sightseeing log pretty recently. But this is smaller than my blown up sightseeing. I guess I could blow this up too, but this is fine, I think. So in Limsa Lominsa, there's in the actual city-state of Limsa Lominsa, there's the Barracuda Piers. These docks provide safe mooring for the Thalassocratic Navy's principal squadrons, also known as the Crimson Fleet. To prevent sabotage, admittance to the area is forbidden to the general citizenry. However, on clear days, one might catch a glimpse of the Armada flagship, the Triumph, from atop one of Limsa Lominsa's myriad spans. Also in Limsa Lominsa is the Astalicia. Registered as the trade vessel hailing from foreign waters, this battle-scarred warship, captained by the lord of the region's underworld, Hilfir, serves as a gathering place for brigands, cutthroats, and the purveyors of sundry other breeds. Of villainy. Oh, okay. I don't know why I had this idea, because I'm terribly at reading things, but here we are. It is here that the city-state's many pirate crews find new recruits to join their ranks. Moving outwards of the city, we move on to Middle Lenosha. We find Seasong Grotto. I am the waves that bear, I am the winds that guide, I am the evening stars, I am the morning sky. I am born of the sea, and there shall I die. Nestled within a shallow cavern, situated to the south of Summerford Farms, sits an ancient monolith upon which is carved this, the Sailor's Requiem. The Skylift. Once an endless expanse of flat, rocky meadows, Middle Lenosha is now severed twain by a sheer cliff known as the Descent. To maintain overland trade routes from the easterly outposts of Aleport and Bronze Lake, Lominsan engineers created the Skylift, a tower of wooden scaffolding outfitted with pulleys, winches, and lighter-than-air balloons. The Lithagran East Road. When the Galadian fell victim to the Navigator's fury and ran aground on the southern shores of Vilbrand 700 years ago, it was her two helmsmen, Jean de Nivelle and Guy Lithagran, who were tasked with exploring the newfound island. The former heading east, the latter west. To this day, their routes still serve as La Noscea's two main thoroughfares. Moving on to Lower La Noscea, we find the Salt Strand. When struck by the fallen shard of Dalamud's outer shell, a massive amount of concentrated ether was released from just below the surface of the Rotano Sea, immediately fusing with and crystallizing the towering fount of salt water, which was expelled during the impact. City-state funded exploratory forays into the inner crater have all yet to return. Red Rooster Stead. The farmers on the Red Rooster Stead will rarely shy from testing their agricultural acumen on exotic crops or untested growing methods, and take pride in their willingness to sacrifice a harvest if it means a better yield on autumn hence. The plantation's name is said to be taken from the bloody cockfights held after nightfall by the gamekeepers. Moving over to Western La Noscea, we find the Brewer's Beacon. This relatively new lighthouse was built soon after the Calamity claimed Swift Birch Tower to ensure safe passage for trade vessels carrying shipments of dark stouts and blonde barley wines out of Aleport. In addition, the Candlekeeps also keep watch for increasingly frequent rogue tidal waves caused by the stirring of the Lord of the Whirl. Moving away from the Isle of Vilbrand, we move to the Black Shroud, where we find Gridania, and in so is the Leatherworkers Guild. Crafters for the realm-famous Atelier Fen-Il, the Leatherworkers Guild boasts the finest toyers and tanners in all Eorzea. In recent years, the workshop has come to be known for its Geva patterns, which outline methods of working and cutting hides, pelts, skins, and furs in a way that honors the elementals within by minimizing waste. Apkalu Falls, named after a failed attempt by an ambitious Gridanian merchant to hatch and breed Apkalus in the Lin, Apkalu Falls is most remembered for serving as a place of meditation for the late Louis-Sois Levieux, Circle of Knowing Archon and Hero of Eorzea. Outside of Gridania proper and into the Central Shroud is Bent Branch Meadows. Once Mughals Gift Mount was established and its rookery stocked with Ishgard's finest birds, it was not long before an entire settlement had grown up around the stables. The trademark balloon tethered to the main building is actually an Ixali war vessel claimed by Chocobo Keeps after it became tangled in a nearby tree and was abandoned by its riders. The Sanctum of the Twelve. This skyscraping ivory cathedral was built following the Age of Endless Frost, a dark period in which the realm was overrun with famine and disease, to serve as a place of refuge and respite for all who sought succor. Soon after, however, it fell into ruin and was all but forgotten, until the advent of the Seventh Umbral Era saw a need for its rise once again. Little is the solace granted to those sylphs who would voice their opposition to the summoning of the Lord of Levin. Little is the solace bequeathed upon those who would abandon their homes in the Sylphlands and shun their frenzied brethren. Thus it is only through fraternity that these sylphs may ultimately find solace, however little it may be. Out of the Black Shroud and on to Analan, where the city of Ul'dah is located. Royal Promenade. In times when the Sultan had sole rule over the city-state, the promenade would serve as an ersatz waiting chamber for those petitioners who sought audience with his resplendence in the fragrant chamber. Now, with power in the hands of the syndicate, the round is empty save for the occasional tryst betwixt young nobles. The Gold Court. A large atrium in the heart of Ul'dah, the Gold Court's opulence and scale make it a popular meeting place for the city's elite. The plaza was once reserved for the Sultan's private balls, but has since been opened to the public due to a lack of funds to maintain the majestic hanging fountain at her center. The Jewel of the Desert. The commercial hub of Ul'dah is organized strategically around the dome-shaped citadel at its center. Its towering fortifications and protective outer walls, bedighted with myriad glass panes and colorful mosaics, are visible from malms in all directions, and serve as a stark yet dazzling deterrent to would-be besiegers. The ruins of Silde. The city-states of Ul'dah and Silde coexisted for generations until 400 years ago, when bad blood festering betwixt the two sultanates culminated in the War of the Sisters, leaving Silde a smoldering pile of rubble to be claimed by the shifting desert sands. The subsequent relocation of Ul'dah placed the city-state nearly directly above her fallen sibling. The Lonely Giant. Local legend claims the Lonely Giant is everything from the ghost of a Sildan's sultan to the prototype for a new model of Garlean Machina. Ul'dah scholars, however, simply believe him a Kurthan Gubu who lost his bearings during the chaos of the Calamity, and after a long journey through the Black Shroud, died from exhaustion upon reaching Thanalan. The Invisible City. Buried under nearly a mom of solid rock, if not for a gaping rent torn open by the Calamity, these ancient ruins may have gone undiscovered for another 1,000 summers. Scholars sent to Highbridge to study the site are currently of a mind that the structures are not a city, but in fact the tomb of one Lalafut IV, famed Sultan of Baladia. Highbridge. After the Calamity rent eastern Thanalan asunder, one of the first projects commissioned by the Syndicate was the construction of a bridge to span the newly formed chasm, and restore the trade route with lands transpontine. Transpontan? The city, which has sprung up along its edges, is populated almost solely by scholars investigating the nearby ruins of the Invisible City. Those were the first 20, and how the Aroma Reborn sightseeing logs work is that you only unlock the first 20. You are unable to get the other 60 until you have completed all of the first 20. So now it's going to be jumping around a little more than the first 3 starting areas. So we're back in Lenosha. In Middle Lenosha, there's Woad Whisper Canyon. Little more than a shallow valley, but 5 years past, Woad Whisper Canyon was carved into a gaping gorge in a matter of moons after the Calamity drained Bronze Lake and dramatically altered the course of the Nim River. On hot days, laborers from both Summerford Farms and the Skylift will oft take respite in the cool mists of the falls, if not met by bandits. Summerford Farms, when Merlvid Blufisvin rose to Admiral, one of her first decrees included the clearing of large swaths of land for the new Lumenson settlements. Summerford Farms and its expansive orange groves is one of those locations. Its name is derived from the man-made crossings required when late spring runoff from Mount Ogomoro causes the Rogue River to swell. The Grey Fleet. Sitting high atop Widow Cliffs to the southeastern coast of Vilbrand, the Grey Fleet was built to harness the constant southerly winds funneled down through the Strait of Murthor, and use them to power the many mills which grind the region's wheat and full its wool. Hidden Falls. Sheltered on 3 sides by towering cliffs, Hidden Falls can be found several score yalms upstream from where the ageless river empties into the Strait of Murthor. Taken by its beauty, Ul'dah plutocrat Gegaruju was quick to purchase the land and construct a stage upon which private performances for the magnate's favored clients are held. Gullperch Tower. One of 3 beacons built along the Lenoshan coast in the 6th Astral Era, Gullperch Tower is the easternmost. Warning ships navigating the Strait of Murthor of its deadly shallows, while also serving as a watchtower for pirate and Sahuagin raids on Bloodshore. The Navigator. Carved centuries past by a famous Rugadan sculptor, this massive stone effigy, located in the center of Ailport's lower plaza, serves as hallowed ground upon which sailors might offer solemn prayers to the Watcher of the Seas before embarking on their journeys across the untamed deep. I didn't know that was meant to be a sculpture of Lemlane. Interesting. The ship graveyard. For centuries, ships wrecked off the shores of southern Vilbrant have been carried upon currents to this quiet inlet, a timeless reminder of the deep's boundless wrath. So many are the wooden corpses which populate this watery lich yard, it is said that for every hull visible above the waters, a score more slumber beneath. Camp Skull Valley. Now a strategic outpost for the Maelstrom, Camp Skull Valley was once but a circle of tents occupied by a meager Yellow Jacket unit charged with surveilling the area for kobold incursions. Those beastmen foolish enough to venture down from Ogomoro were slaughtered and beheaded, their skulls put on display as a warning to others. Tidegate. Taking advantage of the chaos left in the Calamity's wake, a large force of Sakagan rose from the seas and laid claim to Halfstone, a distant Lamensin settlement on the far western edge of Lenosha. To prevent any further swells of the Beastmen forces, a massive wall was erected between the enemy-occupied lowlands and the allied Skull Valley. Camp Bronze Lake. The formation of great underwater fissures during the Calamity saw nearly half of the water compromising Bronze Lake vanish in the span of a single night. The result was the uncovering of ancient Nemean ruins submerged for thousands of years, most notably the Wanderer's Palace, a temple dedicated to the god Oshon. Talos. Though there is no proof to support the claim, rumor has these sun-bleached remains of a long-dead denizen of the deep are those of one of the legendary twin sea serpents believed to have been unleashed by the navigator, Limlane, at the dawn of eras to fill the empty seas, the other being Pericos. Gigirune's Trading Post. Located on the eastern banks of Bronze Lake, Gigirune's Trading Post is one of two makeshift markets peddling baubles and trinkets to those brave enough to venture that deep into kobold lands. The other is Memarune's Trading Post, run by Gigirune's estranged sibling, to whom the stubborn Kikern merchant hasn't spoken in 20 summers. The floating city of Nim. Suspended high above the foothills of Mount Ogomoro is the floating city of Nim, central hub of the lost civilization which prospered on Vilbrand during the 5th Astral Era. The accepted theory as to how the city was torn from the realm involves the over-aspecting of corrupted wind crystals, a phenomenon witnessed late in the 6th Astral Era. Camp Overlook. Manned by the meanest shite-kicking unit in the whole damn Maelstrom, Camp Overlook serves as the base of operations for the Red Swallows, a privateer levy tasked with the surveillance of kobold activity in outer Lenosha and along the slopes of Mount Ogomoro. Ugamaro Mines. The brilliant rainbow-colored hues that permeate the otherwise beastray slopes of Ogomoro are a result of the endless flow of toxic slum gullion streaming forth from the labyrinthine warrens that make up Ugamaro Mines. As more kobolds arrive on the surface each day, there is a scramble to construct new forges to accommodate them. The Hermit's Hovel. While few have ever seen the lord of this humble hideaway, which rests precariously on the edge of an unscalable precipice, let alone obtained his permission for entering the premises, this has not stopped travelers from taking full advantage of the respite the location offers, whether it be a dip in the steaming pools or a few bells slumber on the soft goose feather bed. That is all of Lenosha once more complete, and we are moving back to the Black Shroud, starting in Gridania. The Carling Canopy, nestled cozily within the inn known as the Roost, lies the relaxing Carling Canopy, a haven for those seeking a respite from travel's travails or questing quandaries. Vigaga's Gift, the towering water wheel found outside the cafe, powers the saws and lathes of the Carpenters Guild, and is widely considered Gridania's grandest architectural achievement. The Lancers Guild, founded by legendary woodwhaler Captain Mistale. The Lancers Guild doubles as the headquarters for those who keep the peace within Gridania, and the greater peace without. It is to those whaling barracks that people come with matters whose resolution requires a polearm's edge, and justice meted out to those who have wronged the forest or forest-born. The Bannock, built around the stump of a fallen heavens pillar. The Bannock serves as a training ground for the Order of the Twin Adder Initiates. There are several theories regarding the origin of the area's name, some claiming it is taken from the hardtack issued to Grand Company recruits, others that is derived from these training stumps' resemblance to those self-same rations. Hawk Manor. Long frowned upon by the people of Gridania as a symbol of excess, the Seed Seers would finally submit to pressure from the citizenry, selling the deed to the manor to Lady Amandine of House D'Artencours. The word hawk is of ancient Pajali origin and means to speak without words. Interesting. It was originally a Pajali construction or building. The Guardian Tree. Having seen over 1,000 summers, the Guardian Tree is purportedly the oldest arbor in all the Black Shroud, and home to the Great One, an elder elemental who watches and presides over the forest denizens. The fruit borne by the tree resembles a plum and is sought after across the 3 great continents for its curative properties. When struck by the rare sunbeams which happen to penetrate the thick canopy of the Black Shroud, the veil of fine mist created by one of the East Veins' myriad cataracts projects a brilliant rainbow which appears to connect the river's east and west banks. The grotto, hidden behind the veil, houses one of the forest's most sacred locations, Lifemen's Stump. The Seedbed. Illuminated in the soft glow of countless moon spores, the Seedbed is an ancient arbor-turned nursery used by the sylphs to grow and incubate their offspring, also known as podlings. Buscaron's Druthers. The Druthers is run by a disenfranchised ex-sentry-turned-tavern keep and welcomes all manner of folk, from upstanding to unsavory, so long as they follow Buscaron's strong arm's simple rules of etiquette. Sit down, forget your worries, and savor your ale. South Shroud Landing. Constructed by Highwind Skyways to serve as a landing for cargo airships, this location was quickly abandoned when the Imperial presence in the area became too large to ignore. Now the site is used as a makeshift market where bandits and poachers peddle their ill-gotten wares far from the eyes of the law. Earth's Gift. Ancient writings tell that in exchange for her lifeblood, Lady Earth was able to seal the dark divinity Odin in a crystalline prison beneath a bubbling wellspring. To honor her sacrifice, the land upon which she drew her last breath still bears her name. Quarry Mill. Once a deal had been struck between the Glamorans and the Elementals, allowing their return to the forest surface, the Elizan began unearthing large quantities of boulders to build the foundations of their new city, Gridania. The water wheels of the quarry mill were raised to power the hammers which rendered the massive stones into workable blocks. Ixali Locking Grounds. The Ixal have never taken well to banishment from their banishment from the Black Shroud, and to this day continue to fell the hoary sentinels growing on the forest outskirts. Too heavy to drag back to their settlements in Nadalan or faraway Zelvatol, the ill-gotten lumber is tied to balloons buoyed with Ixali airstones and flown to the Beast Tribe's homeland under the cover of night. Fallen Neuralink. Coined by the learned men of Garland Ironworks, these massive rings were used to dampen spiritual energies, preventing the focusing of power required to wield magics. No less than 5, each measuring hundreds of yalms across, were required to keep Bahamut silent for 3 full eras, but even then they proved insufficient. Alder Springs. Once a vast grove of giant alders, the flames of the Calamity reduced the area to a charred graveyard, leaving nothing of the ancient hold but its name. Moving out of the Black Shroud once more, and moving on to Thanalin again. There is Castrum Marinum. Situated atop the roiling Rotano Sea between Aldenard and the eastern coast of Vilbrand, Castrum Marinum serves as the southernmost outpost for the Garlean Empire's 14th Legion. The cohort stationed on this man-made floating island is primarily tasked with the resupplying of Imperial Army cohorts deployed in the Lenosha and the Hanlon theaters. Vesper Bay, a bustling port city strategically situated on the western coast of Thanolin and maintained using funds generously provided by Syndicate Chairman Lolarito, Vesper Bay serves as a gateway in and out of the Sultanate-controlled lands. The colossal bronze statue in the main plaza is said to be an exact likeness of the said chairman when viewed from afar. Blackbrush Station, a marvel of modern innovation, the steam engine has transformed the mining industry, increasing efficiency and profits thrice over. It has also led to the transformation of what was once a thinly manned Aetheryte outpost into a thriving crossroads of labor and commerce, a new pillar to support the thriving Ul'Dan economy. I should have grabbed more water than I did. Gate of Nald. One of 3 main portals accessible by the general populace, the Gate of Nald is wide enough for 2 fully burdened chocobo carriages to enter abreast and still leave room for the flanking gate guards. Her Royal Majesty Nanamo Ulnamo has commanded that the portcullis remain open night and day so as to welcome all who would partake of Ul'Dan's wonders. The Burning Wall. Once an unscalable precipice severing eastern Thanolin from the Grand Wake, the Burning Wall earned its name for the deep red glow it would emit each evening as the sun sets. Toppled by the calamity, that cliff no longer exists. In its place, a queer forest of crystalline sentinels and malformed creatures shunned by nature itself. The Golden Bazaar. Once a waypoint for traders making the journey between Gridania and Ul'Da, the rise of settlements such as Camp Drybone and Highbridge have all but rendered the once prospering hamlet a ghost town. Rumors of mithril deposits in the nearby mountains and treasure in the ruins of the Invisible City, however, may work to rekindle this dying ember. Thal's Respite. Overseer of wealth in the afterlife, proper obeisance to the trader Thal is required for those who wish to take belongings accumulated in this world to the hereafter. Thal's Respite is often used by stout devotees of the Order of Nald Thal as a place of fasting and prayer, but its distance from Ul'Da prevents all but the most affluent from making the journey. Nald's Reflection. Overseer of wealth and commerce upon the corporeal plane, it is believed that through fervent worship of the trader Nald, one will reap measurable fortune in one's living years. Prince and pauper alike once made pilgrimages to this remote place of prayer in, that's so many P's, in search of prosperity. Until, that is, Milvaneth's Sacrarium opened the new, toll-based temple within Ul'Da. Zaharak. Loosely translated as Land of Perseverance, Zaharak is a forward stronghold for the Amalja host based in Zanrak. The Beast Tribe believes that the scorched plains of Thanolin to be a hallowed ground blessed by the cleansing flames of their primal deity Ifrit, and as such are intent on driving from the land all whom they deem invaders. The Sagoli Desert. According to the Sons of Saint Koinok, the Sagoli Desert was once a verdant sea of lush plains capable of sustaining great civilizations, as is evidenced by the ruins recently discovered in the area. How such a place devolved into a lifeless desert remains a mystery, but recent disaster tells us an ancient calamity is the likely culprit. The Sunken Temple of Karn. Most scholars of ancient Baladian civilization claim this twisting labyrinth of complex chambers to be a place of worship dedicated to the sun goddess Azema. Recent diggings, however, have uncovered older chambers buried beneath the new, containing relics not of the 6th astral era, suggesting that the temple may have been built by a different people. Containing relics not of the 6th astral era. Okay. Minotaur Malm. Local legend has that long ago, a young goat herd leading his pack to water at Forgotten Springs was set upon and chased a full malm through these caves by a minotaur. There is yet to be a second sighting of the creature, but the stories are enough to frighten away most who would consider passage through this trading post used by the 77 caravans. Oh, wrong way. East Watchtower. To power their legions of War Machina, the Garleans require a steady supply of the aether-based fuel known as ceruleum. Blue Fog, housing the largest deposit in Eorzea, the Empire has begun their own mining operation, but a stone's throw from the Allied refineries, heightening tensions in the area and prompting the construction of 2 watchtowers. Ceruleum Pipeline. Even before airships and engines were commonplace in Eorzea, Imagina and Sons Mineral Concern recognized the potential value of ceruleum and laid claim to nearly all of the untapped deposits in northern Thanalan. In an ironic twist, for many years before the Garlean invasion, the concern's biggest customer was, in fact, the Imperial Army. Blue Fog. Though abundant on the northern continent of Ilsabard, only a handful of cerulean deposits have ever been discovered in Aldenard, the largest being buried under the Sea of Spires in northern Thanalan. Ceruleum is a highly unstable substance and will begin to evaporate when in contact with air, resulting in the bluish haze from which this area earns its name. Rabon's Push. In the final days of the 6th Astral Era, the ceruleum fields of northern Thanalan proved to be one of the most hotly contested areas in all Eorzea, with the Empire amassing a giant host outside of Blue Fog to seize control of the local fuel refineries. Though outnumbered 3-1, Rabon and his army succeeded in pushing back the enemy. Abandoned Imagina Mithril Mine. The discovery of mithril in a small copper mine in Blue Fog triggered the Great Rush, which saw would-be prospectors flock to the Sea of Spires in search of quick and easy fortune. The veins that ran through the mountains, however, were not deep, and it was but 10 summers before the mines ceased to yield their precious metal, forcing many to abandon their claims. The Nail. Oh, we've moved away from Thanalan again now, and we have moved on to Kurthus, which we have not been to yet. As is described in the Enchiridion, to ensure the realm of man did not drift apart from the firmament, Halone struck the nail through both, ever binding the two. And though assailed on all sides by great metal shards fallen from the Lesser Dalamud's crust, the ancient peak remained standing, a testament to the land's life force. Nice. The Observatorium. 300 years ago, Ishgardian astrologian Adonal the Younger convinced the Holy See that he could predict the comings and goings of Javanian horde by studying the movements of the heavens, and thus secured funding for the construction of the first dicasterial observatorium of ethereal and astrological phenomena and its grand astroscope. The Frozen Fang. In years past, the hot Alpine summers would have seen this fallen Javanian outflyer blown with maggots and reduced to bones in a matter of days. Now, in the endless winter wrought by the calamity, the carcass rests in the permafrost under a thick blanket of snow, perfectly preserved since the day he was pierced through the heart by a ballista. The Holy See of Ishgard. For the past 1,000 years, Ishgard has waged a bloody war with the dragons of Javania. To fend off the enemy horde, a complex web of defenses, magical and corporeal, has been added piecemeal to the city's proper outer walls, transforming her into an impenetrable bastion, while at the same time isolating her and her people from the outside world. Boulder Downs. Before the calamity, Boulder Downs was a vast slopely littered with moraine deposited by realm-swallowing glaciers long receded. The rain of debris that accompanied the fall of Dalamud, however, transformed the landscape into a frozen wasteland pocked with gaping impact craters and peculiar dark matter formations. The Fury's Gaze. A place holy to all Ishgardians, it is believed that when a man stands within this hidden grotto, the Fury herself will reach deep into the darkest recesses of his soul and lay out his sins before him, allowing the man to repent those failings. Monument Tower was built nearby to protect this hallowed ground from the taint of dragons and heretics. Snowcloak. The bitter cold which swept over Kurthus Highlands following the calamity did not only blanket the region in snow and ice, but transformed the water of twin pools and the Swift Run into a mountainous flow of ice, a flow which has slowly crept through the western Kurthus Highlands and now has completely engulfed Gargoyle Crossing, preventing passage. Camp Dragonhead. Its name taken from a rocky outcropping said to be the head of a Devranian king turned to stone by the almighty hand of Halone. This outpost acts as the Kurthus Central Highlands' southernmost line of defense for the Holy See, tasked with fending off Ixali raids from Nadalin, skirmishes by heretic factions, and the occasional Yeti scare. The Steel Vigil. One of 4 citadel watchtowers built along the Sea of Clouds, the Steel Vigil warned the Holy See of aerial attacks for centuries before being razed and gutted by the Dravanian horde and their vile commander Svara. Now only the outer walls remain, leaving a bitter reminder of the dragon's destructive power. We moved on to Mordona. Castrum Sentry. Castrum Sentry was erected with material salvaged from the ruins of Castrum Novum, the Garlean Empire's first major outpost in Eorzea, constructed in the final year of the 6th Astral Era by 7th Legion legatus Nail Van Darnus. It houses several cerulean mining pits, a magic manufactory, and the Phantom Train used to transport ordnance to outlying Castra. The Crystal Tower. As if somehow beckoned forth from its hypogeal prison by the events of the calamity, this skyscraping spire now commands the Mordonan horizon. Through their research, the Sons of St. Koinik have determined that the monolith, also known as Circus Tower, was constructed to collect and store the endless energies of the sun. Wrathfrost. The fall of the Agrius into Silvertear Falls not only drained the magnificent multi-tiered lake, but instantly crystallized the majority of the region's flora, a result of mass quantities of cerulean fuel reacting with ether released upon Megardzumer's death. What remains is a brilliant yet dead landscape akin to a twisted garden pocked with blooming geodes. Keeper of the Lake. Maintaining a silent vigil over Silvertear Lake, the Keeper is wrought from the wreckage of the Imperial flagship, the Agrius, and the entangled remains of Megardzumer. For many religious and mythological enthusiasts, it stands as proof of the existence of the gods. For most people, however, it serves as a grim reminder of the horrific power of Garlemald. And that's the entire Realm Reborn sightseeing log. Starting in Heavensward, we are at the Kurthus Western Highlands, where we find Falcon's Nest. From its humble origins as a lonely cluster of barracks nestled in the mountains of western Kurthus, the village of Falcon's Nest grew and prospered until the calamity came and the icy winter took its deathly toll. Its name derives from the falconers who reside there with their snow-white charges, defending their mountain home from the Dravanian threat. Camp Riversmeet. Once a key military outpost for the Ishgardian forces, the strategic location where the waters of Swift Run and the Kurthus flow together is home to a lonely aetheryte shard which has stood abandoned in the years since the calamity. The Dreaming Dragon. What appears to be an island floating amidst the icy waters of Ashpool is said to have once been a living, breathing dragon, magicked into slumber by the Holy See until ash enveloped its body and its limbs turned nigh unto stone. The Dusk Vigil. The calamity was not kind to this once proud watchtower from which Sir Uhelmeric and the brave knights of House Durandare once stood watch against the encroaching horde. Since the walls fell and the chill took hold, it has come to be inhabited by all manner of fell beasts, and gods only know what else. Gorganya Mills. Sir Gorgang, I don't know how to pronounce that, I'm gonna be real with you, was a proud knight and bannerman of House Durandare until the fateful day when the heir of that house vanished from sight while under his care, never to be seen again. Devastated by the loss of the boy and his own failing, he put aside his blade and built this farm. where he quietly lived out the rest of his days. Hemlock. Once a bustling village and home to the woodcutters who plied their trade in the western highlands of Kurthus, this settlement, named for the large evergreens unique to the area, was abandoned when the chill came and remains a ghost town to this day. The Bed of Bones. It remains to be confirmed whether, as the tales say, Yetis prefer to slumber atop makeshift bedding fashioned from the remains of their victims, in large part because prominent naturalists have been reluctant to do the fieldwork necessary to corroborate this claim. Moving on to the Drowning of Forlands, we find Lothast Nath, built from a highly vicious blend of Javanian clay and saliva. The nests of the Nath are surprisingly stable, able to withstand the harsh elements of the Javanian Forlands. The smoke that rises from the mound-like structures is believed to be a sort of incense with a scent that, for reasons unknown, keeps would-be dragon invaders at bay. Annex Minor. The shattered ruins of a once proud city, the official stance of the Holy See is that it was a settlement of heretics razed to the ground by Halone in an act of divine retribution, though scholars disagree on the historical accuracy of this interpretation. Annex Shrine. 3 towers, unique in that they appear to have been built to house both man and dragon, are an architectural oddity which would seem to corroborate the Holy See's position that they were erected by heretic witches for themselves and their dragon consorts. The 100 Throws. The rushing river has all but swallowed these ancient ruins at the base of Som Al, which now serve as a nest to all manner of beastkin who find sustenance in its waters, and the dragons who find sustenance in said beastkin. Halo. This ancient altar sits in the fiery depths of Morn, once adorned by statues depicting a girl and a dragon, only the latter has survived to the present age. Lift your eyes above the structure, and the base of the floating peak of Somal can be seen. Tailfeather. Founded by hunters who came to the frontiers in hopes of snaring the wild chocobos of the forest, this settlement and those who call it home are shielded from the eyes of the dragons by the canopy of the majestic Kalim trees that rise high above it. Som Al. Of all the mighty peaks that comprise Avalathia's spine, none rise higher than Som Al, the highest point in all Eorzea. It is held as a sacred land by the dragons, who are said to journey here when they feel their life slipping away. Formed not of stone, but solid crystal, the massive mountain floating above the ground below is a marvelous sight to behold. Moving on to the Churning Mists. Mogholm. A settlement that sits curiously atop Somal, the tallest peak in Eorzea, in the heart of the dragon's Demesne? What pact might the Mughals have made with the great worm Hraesvelgr to allow them to live here in peace? The Eyrie. Vicious etheric storms rage in Nidhogg's lair, keeping out all those who would dare disturb the great worm in his slumber, be it one of years or centuries. Tharl Kash. An ancient structure, half consumed by crystal, its name means crystal from remorse in the tongue of the dragons. From the sheer mass of crystallization, it has been posited that an entity possessed of etheric power to rival the 7 great worms laid down his life here. Zenith. A majestic fortress in Hraesvelgr's domain, watched over at the great worm's behest by the Mughals who make their home in the Churning Mists. Though the years, 1,000 of them, have taken their toll, it still stands proud and strong, stirring the hearts of all who lay eyes upon it. The Lost Landlord. This colossus stands on an island in Greensward. Its name was bestowed by the Mughals, who believe it to be a statue of the King of the Land Dwellers, though no records remain that could shed light on the identity of this individual and whether or not he ever truly walked the realm. The House of Letters. The 1,000-year-old ruins of a tower said to have been built by the hand of man and dragon in the days before the war. Even now, as it lies crumbling in ruin, one can still make out the letters engraved in its walls, which have led the Mughals to give it the name by which it is now commonly known. The Rookery. As the Mughals tell it, the place known as the Rookery was once a bustling skyport where wayfarers came and went on the backs of trained wyverns. These days, the buildings remain, but the only dragons in sight are the vicious minions of Nidhogg. Moving to the Sea of Clouds. Camp Cloudtop, an outpost manned by the Rose Knights of House Halenart, who stand watch against Gridvanian incursions from atop the floating islets in the sky. Boasts the Protector, a mighty airship that would avail the Ishgardians greatly in their battle against the Horde were it ever repaired to full strength. The Nidifice, a nest of great migratory birds that travel with the seasons from the Near East to Eorzea and back again in search of warmer climes. It is here that they lay their eggs, raise their young, and teach them to take to the skies before making the journey anew. Vor Sian Saran, a spring formed from moisture in the atmosphere accumulated and solidified by the power of water crystals. It is said that the knight who first discovered these ethereal waters shared the story with a wandering minstrel, who declared it to be the legendary paradise of Vor Sian Saran. However, this claim has been met with some skepticism given the minstrel's penchant for embellishment. Olive Fallen Plume. Among the most sacred locations of the Vanu Vanu is that this is said to be the spot where a single feather from Bismarck, a ruler of the clouds, fell to the surface. In recent years, the elder of the violent Vundu tribe has claimed it as his seat of power, from which he rules with an iron claw. Ok Vundu Vana. Roughly translating as High Home of the Vundu, this village is home to the Vanu Vanu's aggressive Vundu tribe. Exceedingly proud, the Vundu believed that the... I didn't realize this track was in this. Hold on. Exceedingly proud, the Vundu believe that the voices of those who live highest in the clouds will be heard loud and clear by the ruler of the clouds. Henger's Crucible. This oddly shaped isle, floating in the eastern reaches of the Sea of Clouds, is named for the witch Henger, a figure of Kurthan fairy tales whose cauldron its shape is said to resemble. In recent years, it has become a gathering place for the notorious territorial Tokotokos. The Architecton. Oh, we've moved on to the Javanian hinterlands. The Architecton, once home to Charlian masters who fashioned aetherites within its halls, this workshop is now home to the Illuminati, a nasty band of goblins who would wield the ancient technologies within for their own nefarious ends. The Answering Corner. This Charlian settlement stretches across the western banks of the Thaliak, home to St. Mosian's Arboretum, and a center for education and scholarly pursuits. It harkens back to the cities of learning that flourished in bygone times. The Cenotaph. A towering monolith erected in tribute to the great scholars who have passed on, leaving behind the knowledge that has shaped the realm. The names of countless men of learning are etched into the mighty stone, along with the motto of Charlian, "Knowledge seeks no man." The Tipped Ewer. The spot where the melted snows of Abelathia's spine flow. Emerge from their source to descend down the mountain, forming the countless tributaries that come together as the mighty Thaliak River. The name is said to come from the deity whose name the river bears, and the magic pitcher from which poured the waters of knowledge. Great Guba Library. A massive library constructed by the Charlians to house the wealth of knowledge they had amassed in their travels across the realm. Though the vast majority of the tomes that once lined its shelves were carried back to the motherland in the Exodus, it is said forbidden texts still slumber in sealed-off vaults below. The Orn Wilds. A primeval forest that stretches across the northern reaches of the Dranian hinterlands, its rich verdure sustained by the pristine waters of Thaliak. Nigh untouched by the hand of man, its wilds stand between those who would make their way to Sharlayan without braving a trek across the Forelands. St. Mosian's Arboretum. This botanical garden built by the Sharlayans once was home to fauna and flora collected from across the realm, the study of which yielded numerous discoveries regarding our natural world. Sadly, it was abandoned in the Exodus, and the teeming life within left to run wild and unchecked. Moving on to Az's Law. The Gratian? Flagship of the 6th Legion of the Garlean Empire, of the same make as the fallen Agrius, it now lies grounded, its cerulean engines sealed in etheric ice by the hand of Shiva, Lady of Frost. The Fractal Continuum. A mighty warship converted to a museum, intended to preserve for eternity precious artifacts from the 1,000-year history of the Allegan Empire. From everyday tools to advanced military technology, the objects within are a testament to the fallen civilizations surpassing might and prosperity. Antithesis, home to Tiamat, great worm of Midgardsormr's first brood, who fell to and was imprisoned by the Allegans. Even now, she laments her fateful decision to summon her brood brother Bahamut back as a primal to aid her in her struggle. Etherochemical Research Facility. An ancient Allegan research facility wherein studies in restraining dragons and mastering primals were conducted. Test subjects from failed experiments prowl its long since abandoned halls. Helix, a massive port of sorts that stands among the wastes of Az's Law. As the guidance node tells it, it was one of the few Imperial landings massive enough to house Ragnarok-class interment hulks. It would seem the docking rings that remain are but a fraction of those that stood in bygone days. Quarantine Block. This floating island in a lonely corner of Az's Law served as an isolation area for chimerical creations which failed to meet established safety parameters. Historical records indicate that the facility began its life as a research center for advanced agricultural crossbreeding. Recombination Labs. This Allegan research facility gave birth to countless numbers of chimerical creations. Though the guidance system is quick to assure all visitors that the good behavior of the creatures born here was, at least at one point, guaranteed, recent visitors may find themselves having doubts. Moving back to the western highlands of Kurthus, the Pike. A monumental stone sculpture carved in the likeness of Haldreth, the first Azure Dragoon. The stonemason Purcell devoted 30 of her later years chiseling the piece, and it has stood for more than 150 years since. Even today, one cannot find a more stirring tribute to one of Ishgard's founding fathers. Black Iron Bridge. This testament to the skill of House Zamail's artisans serves the main road stretching from the capital to the Dusk Vigil. Although built primarily of solid stone, the bridge was named for its suspended metal chains, wrought from black iron impervious to the blazing temperatures of a dragon's exhalation. Dragon Spit. Said to be as scalding as a worm's breath, Dragon Spit is a colorful analogy for the hot springs nestled between the cliffs near the Slate Mountains. Local wildlife has long been attraction to the warmth of the natural thermal pools, and their numbers have only increased following the advent of the long winter. The steaming springs are also frequented by Ishgardian knights, who laud them for their supposed healing properties. The Slate Mountains. These mountains on the outskirts of Ishgard were valued as a mining site for slate of exceptional quality. 3 years past, the Knights of House Zamail attempted to carve an Ishgardian stronghold into the cliffs, enraging the dragon Sulebre and his followers. Remnants of the gruesome battle that followed still lie scattered about the crags, unable to decay in the chilled altitude. In the Dranian Forelands, the Willem River. When asked to explain the origin of its name, the local hunters usually say that while the river courses with tranquility in the present day, it once ran scarlet with the blood of Dravanians and their foes. Those who fraternize with the dragons refute this interpretation, asserting instead that the river is symbolic of the passage of time since the sorrowful parting of paths between man and dragon. Loth Ast Vath. Carved out from the main colony, a minority of Nath known as the Non-Mind built Lost Ast Vath as a sanctuary for other exiles. The word Vath is derogatory in the Nathic tongue, referring to those who can no longer link their thoughts to the Overmind. Possessed of individual personalities unlike their one-mind brothers, the Vath learn to live with each other's differing thoughts in the makeshift colony. The Hissing Cobbles. The remaining fragment of a forgotten highway, the Hissing Cobbles have been molded by the inexorable march of time, its neatly arranged grids of stone fading into earth and dust. The hunters of Tailfeather bitterly call it such as many a tracked quarry have escaped, startled by the hissing sounds of boots grating on loose gravel. The Dana Road. This road leading to Anix Shrine was originally called Dran Urn, which roughly translates to the Path of Dragon and Man. Due to the difficult pronunciation, the road became known as the Dana Road over time, and its profound meaning was forgotten by all but the Dravanians. Over in the Churning Mists again. Statue of the Unsung. A solitary statue of a dragon in the southeast corner of the Churning Mists. While it is difficult to ascertain the circumstances which led to its creation, the sculpture's foundation bears a weathered inscription in an early script which reads, "Along with the memory of thine heroic sapphire wings." Landlord Colony. The many dwellings here show evidence of extensive damage, likely the work of a furious Nidhogg following the betrayal of man. The Mughals tell that the ruins were once home to the Lords of the Lower Lands, although their history was lost in the Great Worm's wrath. The Old Father. The Mughals consider this ancient tree to be the forebearer of all flora in the Churning Mists. They believe that the Father bore witness to a time before man and dragon descended into their millennium of bloodshed. Back over in the Sea of Clouds. Cold Wind. When the Rose Knights first came to the Sea of Clouds and treated with the Zundu, they asked the chieftain what he called this islet floating northwest of Okzundu, to which he responded, "Small island beneath which cold winds of Kurthus ever blow." For the sake of brevity, the knights simply called it Cold Wind. The Shattered Back. The strong seasonal winds from the north have carved the crags of this floating isle into their unique shapes. The Knights of Ishgard called it the Shattered Back for its ominous resemblance to the gnarled rib bones of a great beast. Provenance. When Sir Marielle was appointed to the Rose Knights of Camp Cloudtop, she spotted this heart-shaped island atop the deck of her airship bound for post. It reminded the knight of a place of provenance where two lovers would begin their journey together, and the island was named thus. The Dravanian Hinterlands. The Sage's Cataract. As the Thaliak River stretches north towards the Orn Wild, it spills over this grand waterfall. In the past, students would compete to see who could swim closest to the cataract's edge without succumbing to its powerful torrents. A ban on entering the waters was eventually imposed after too many accidents. The Path of Knowing. This colossal bridge was once a bustling artery for researchers, students, and curators commuting to and from the Great Gubal Library. Its stone pillars suffered significant damage when the calamity reshaped the land, causing a portion of the walkway to crumble and collapse. The Daggers. An area of the hinterlands where clusters of stone columns shaped like daggers protrude from the earth. The scholars of Charlian had long been engulfed in a heated debate over whether the name was too simple and colloquial, but a different one was never decided upon as the proposals began to exceed the columns in number. In Azizla, the centrifugal crystal engine. This seemingly indefatigable, there we go, nailed it, first try, engine harnessed the power of the imprisoned warring triad to transmute the life force of chimera experiments into the synthetic crystal. These manufactured shards would then be used to fuel the cultivation of the chimeras as part of research in the possibility of obtaining limitless power. Biomass Incubation Complex, a research facility dedicated to chimera splicing experiments. Its construction was prompted by imaginative requests from the Allegan Research Council and related institutes, leading to the cultivation of all manner of living prototypes. The mutagenesis nearby serves as an annex to the complex. The Cathedral. A cathedral designed in distinct Meristidian style. The architecture suggests a place of worship by a tribe of tree-like beings who believed themselves remnants of Sephiroth. To research the link between faith and primal summoning, the Allegans moved the ancient structure to Azizla from its original location on the southern continent. I think with finishing Heavensward, I will take a quick bathroom break and grab some more water, as I've already run out of the 2 bottles I started the stream with. Alright. Moving on to Stormblood. Starting in the fringes. Castellum Villadina. Built upon the bridge of the Villadina River, this Imperial fortification serves as a critical waypoint for supplies, connecting the many military installations to the east with Baelsar's wall to the west. Rising sky-high from the center is a great tower that provides moorage for airships. Gir Kem. A monastery established some 3 centuries ago by Haemart, High Priest of the Fist of Ralgar. In the ancient Maki language, the name means one's mirage, a reference to the arduous training that monks underwent to face their inner self in their quest to master both body and mind. Schism. In a time out of mind, seeking to approach the sublimity of Ralgar, a man began pummeling a mountain with his bare fists. After decades of nigh ceaseless striking, he succeeded in forming a great cavern in the mountain. This nameless soul is revered as the first monk of the Fist of Ralgar, and the temple was later built here within the hollow he had created. Castrum Oriens. This Garlean stronghold had its beginnings as the construction base for Baelsar's Wall. Following the Seventh Umbral Calamity, it was expanded to become a fully fledged castrum for the Black Wolf's renewed invasion efforts. Nowadays, it is held by the Order of the Twin Adder and jointly garrisoned by Alliance forces. Dimwold, a gloomy forest occupying the southern expanse of East End. Drenched by the waters of Timmenbeck and numerous subterranean springs, the air beneath the bows is laden with moisture, giving rise to a constant veil of light smothering mist. Janan Kat, a distinctive castle of clay built by the Ananta, housing within its depths a shrine to the goddess Lakshmi, Lady of Bliss. For this reason, it was given its name, which means Mother's Bed in the Ananta language. At present, it is occupied by the dominant Kalyana tribe. Peering Stones. The village of the M tribe, perched high atop a crag, its position affords residents a commanding view of their entire territory, and neither trespasser nor prey may pass through unnoticed. As the Garleans deem hunting culture savage, however, Imperial rule has proven harder upon them than most. Hidden Tear. A shrine for honoring the departed, backed by a waterfall whose constant roaring muffles one's sobs and whose spraying hides one's tears. Under Imperial rule, however, religious rites were outlawed, and for a long time, people could not hold even the simplest services to remember loved ones. Hey, Brady. Cold Hearth. Tucked away in a forgotten corner of the peaks, this sleepy hamlet is known for producing mercenaries, a tradition that was born out of necessity. With its lands yielding precious little bounty, youths took to leaving hearth and home behind to trade their sword arms for coin, most notable among them being Rauban Alden, the Bull of Alamigo. Numkrep's Hope. When the Sixth Umbral Calamity befell Eorzea and the realm was transformed into a sea, this great vessel, built by a man hailing far from the north named Numkrep, saved full many lives. Having taken aboard countless souls drifting in the floodwaters, it was finally transported by magics to its current resting place. Alagana, situated in the peak's northern reaches, this village once flourished through its quarry. The beautiful stone sourced and cut here used to build no lesser a structure than the royal palace of Alamigo. Such prosperous days, however, have become but a memory, and the villagers are faced with the harsh realities of a failing industry. Specula Imperatoris. After claiming Garabania for its own, the Empire erected this monstrous tower in order to maintain watch over the region. A communications spire was later added in preparation for the next phase of the Eorzean invasion, followed by an energy spire for activating the ultimate weapon. The Arms of Mead. Cleanse your mind, hone your flesh, redeem your soul, so teaches the Fist of Rhalgr. The temple was built in accordance with this belief that those who have committed wrongs might atone for their sins. 7 years of grueling training here will earn you the Destroyer's forgiveness no matter the weight of your crime. The Ziggurat. The Sixth Umbral Calamity wreaked havoc upon the realm's ethereal flow, giving rise to unstable weather patterns. Desiring to correct the disturbance, descendants of the Amdapori and the Maki set aside past differences and came together to build the Ziggurat, which served as a weight to still the land's writhing currents of ether. And Prize. In the past, monks who completed their training at the Temple of the Fist were honored in a ceremony held in this hallowed cloister. Once alive with activity, thronging with monks and pilgrims alike, it was laid waste at the Mad King's command and is now home to naught but ghosts of the past. Alamigo. Having conquered all the lands of Girabania, King Anshelm ordered the construction of a fortress city that would serve to repel invaders from Ilzabard. Completed in the year 1135, the Sixth Astral Era, it stood as a symbol of defiance until it fell to the Empire, whereupon it became a symbol of oppression. The Alamigan Quarter. a residential area situated to the south of Alamigo, built to accommodate the city's growing population. As the newest district to be added, it is a considerable distance from the royal palace and was expected to become an enclave for the less well-to-do. Under Garlean rule, it more or less retained that status, serving to court the on those without citizenship. Sothwatch, a watchtower erected to guard against invaders that may emerge from the cloudy expanses to the south. In the event of a threat, a flaming arrow is loosened from the top to alert those in the city. The Garleans saw no use for it, however, and it has stood empty in the years following Alamigo's fall. The Divine Audience, a magnificent altar fashioned in the form of a stairway leading high above Loch Seld, at the top of which worshippers may come face to face with the statue of the Destroyer. Formerly a place of piety, it earned a bloody reputation when the Mad King Theodoric took to using it as an execution site. The Hidden Tunnel. In order to supply Alamigo with potable water, brine was channeled from Loch Seld to be distilled. With the Empire's arrival, however, existing techniques were replaced with Magitek-based filtration systems, and the well was rendered obsolete and abandoned. Port of Praetoria. Formerly a checkpoint along the main high road to Alamigo, it was incorporated into the newly constructed Castrum Abania. Prior to the Garlean invasion, the area bustled with merchants bound for the Near East, but mercantile endeavors have since given way to military ones. Moving out of Girabania and on to Kugane, the Sekisei Gumi Barracks. An unassuming space leading to the Sekisei Gumi Barracks, the headquarters of Kugane's peacekeeping force. Off-duty Sekisei Gumi members are often seen relaxing at the nearby tea house, if you tilt your head up, you can take in the unashamedly grandiose main gates of Kugane Castle. Okairo Inn, an inn with sweeping ocean views, famed for the healing properties of its hot springs. The public baths of Hingashi are largely mixed gender, and it is customary to bathe naked, but in a trading hub such as Kugane, where folks of myriad cultures and creeds mingle, one is expected to don not one's name day, but bathing suit. Kugane Dore. Meaning gold in ancient Hingan, Kugane is a port where golden fortunes are made, and it is on this bustling street that merchants earn lesser fortunes, or kogane. From foreign wares to local specialities, there is something to suit every taste. Those who have had their fill at the markets may also find amusement at the renowned Muji Koza's theater. Kugane Alleyways. This quiet canal-side lane offers a splendid view of the Tasogare Bridge, built in the distinctive arched style of the Far East. Just beyond lies Kugane Ofunakura, where vessels that sail the seas are made, above which rises the airship tower, where vessels that soar the skies are moored. Shiokaze Hostelry. A towering tavern, the largest in Kugane, favored by local merchants and dock workers and foreign visitors alike. Guests can indulge in Far Eastern cuisine made with the freshest seafood while sipping on fine rice wine imported from Koshu, the main island of Hingashi. Moving on to the Ruby Sea towards Authord proper. Tamamizu. An underwater village founded by the peaceful Kojin of the Blue. Though the Kojin are able to survive for long periods without air, they do not possess gills like the Sahagin. So it was that they developed magics that allowed them to create an immense bubble of air within which to dwell. Shoal Rock. One of the many isles that pepper the Ruby Sea, hemmed in to the north by a circular formation of enormous coral, whereupon the Confederacy established an outpost. According to Hingan historians, the isle was formed of magma that spewed forth from Hell's lid. Heaven on High. A slender tower of stone stacked to impossible heights, seemingly piercing the very heavens. Aside from a Far Eastern myth that attributes its creation to the kami, little is known about the structure. During a time of war, audacious pirates of the Confederacy made landfall and claimed the spot for their own. Sakazuki, its name meaning goblet. This island is said to be the birthplace of the Confederacy, where rival pirates first toasted as brothers and pledged themselves to a common cause. Today it remains an important outpost, constantly garrisoned by sharp-eyed guards who keep watch for vessels that sail the Ruby Sea. The Isle of Zeki. So named as the home of a fearsome fiend, even the Kojin of the Red, who have long dwelled here, came to know the isle by this moniker. An island in truth in the distant past, it was joined to the mainland by magma over the course of multiple volcanic eruptions. Isari. A small fishing village situated on the eastern coastline of Othard, its name a reference to its livelihood. For a time, the Confederacy had something of a presence here, operating out of the little shack and collecting its ruby tithe. Moving into Yanja. The Swallow's Compass. Enshrined within this tomb, his likeness carved on an imposing scale into the cliffside, is the person of Ganon, the great general who united the warring clans of Yanja to arise as the first king of Doma. A skilled swordsman and mage both, he is credited as the founding father of Doman Geomancy. Castrum Fluminus. Established 25 years ago as an advanced post for the invasion of Doma, the castrum served for a time afterwards as an administrative center for the imperial occupation. As repairs on Doma Castle progressed, its occupants relocated to the city, abandoning it to nature. Namai. A village situated amidst the mountains of the Gensui chain, named for the local word for the aquatic arrowhead plant, an allusion to its long history in rice farming. The arrival of the Empire placed this lifestyle under siege, but through perseverance, the villagers continued to hold on to their ways. Prism Lake. An enigmatic lake carved out in steps, whose waters have taken on the colors of the rainbow. Scholars attribute its beautiful coloration to the rich and exposed deposits of high-purity crystals in the area, while legend tells of an angelic being who fashioned a bridge of rainbow for her mortal lover. Doma Castle. The seat of power in the nation of Doma, whose dominion encompassed the entirety of Yanja, the cragtop site was chosen in order to control the One River, an artery of trade and transport and a vital source of water in the region. Under imperial rule, it was made into a viceroyalty, and its military capabilities were greatly expanded. Dairyu Moon Gates. Built into the natural rock with openings fashioned in the shape of a full moon, a series of colossal portals regulate traffic upon the One River. The Empire, desiring to exert greater control, further added to Magitech field generators. Yuzuka Manor. For generations, the lords of the Yuzuka family faithfully served the Doman monarchy as governors of One River settlements, and this was their dwelling. Raised during this rebellion, a clan of Namazu has since taken up residence. Over in the Azam Steppe, Seol Ain, a cluster of ancient stone pillars located near Barden's Meadow, upon which the songs of the people of the steppe are graven. Although the pillars' placement may appear to be haphazard, when the winds blow through them, they are said to come alive with the melodies from ages past. Dotharl Ka. In the language of the steppe, Ka means a spring, and the Dotharl tribe has laid claim to this particular one. It is a rare oasis in the deathly dry climes of the Nama Desert, and travelers are strongly advised to replenish their water supplies ere they continue on. The Dusk Throne. A grand monument marking the sacred site where Nama, the goddess of the moon, is said to have created a corporeal form of herself and become the Dusk Mother. The sands of time, however, have ever disdained the works of men, and for all its prodigious size, the desert is threatening to swallow it up. Reunion. Once a united people, the Zayla were divided into over 50 disparate tribes. But by gathering here, they may as well be one once more. Such was the hope of the Kestir when they founded this hub of trade. Nowadays, in addition to all the peoples of the steppe, merchants from foreign lands may be seen here as well. Chaka Zo. Resting within this shrine are the bones of a revered Zayla woman who fearlessly faced a monstrous dragon in order to protect her people. It is customary for tribes that triumph at the Nadam to come here to make an offering. The Dawn Throne. A grand monument marking the sacred site where Azim, god of the sun, is said to have created a corporeal form of himself and become the Dawnfather. Tended and improved over the years by the steppe's most powerful tribes, it now rests upon the waters of Azim Khat and is crowned by a magnificent palace. Over in Rogger's Reach now. The Destroyer. Over the course of centuries, disciples of the Fist of Ralgr worked away at the rocky cliff, carving it back to create this colossal image of the Destroyer. By virtue of its size, it is said to have stood defiant through the Mad King's savage attack on the temple, and stands defiant to this day. Bloodstorm. Set at the feet of the Destroyer, this monument enshrines in stone the words of a high priest of the Fist of Ralgr. A storm of blood approaches fast. Hells open, heavens weep, for no one soul doth lie beyond the measure of his reach. Back to the fringes. The Yawn. Writhing with a mysterious pink substance, this cavernous hollow was torn from the earth during the titanic struggle between Omega and Shinryu. In a bid to bring down its steely foe, the Primal unleashed a beam of all-consuming light from its maw, the slightest veering of which could have been disastrous for the nearby M tribe village. Back in the peaks, Alagiri, situated along the high road connecting Alamigo to the rest of Aldenard. Alagiri once served as a trade hub and a vital waypoint for overland trade with the east. Under Imperial rule, that trade came to focus upon catering to the needs of the occupation force. Specula Imperatoris No. 2, its name meaning the Emperor's Watchtower. This forbidding military installation is situated at the heart of the mountainous peaks range. For long years it has cast its menacing shadow over the land and people's hearts both, dominating the skyline as an ever-present reminder of Imperial rule. In the Locks, the Sunken Destroyer. This image of the Destroyer was erected on Loxel to mark the Fist of Ralgr's designation as the state religion of Alamigo. Then the faith's star waxed bright, but such days were not to endure. Deeming the monks a threat to his rule, the Mad King set about their destruction, and ordered his personal guard to tear down the image, sending it sinking into the depths. The Alamigan Quarter No. 2. The residential area situated to the south of Alamigo. Under Garlean rule, it was assigned for the use of the An, the lowliest subjects of the Empire not accorded citizenship. During that time, it was also known as the Peregrine Quarter, a reference to the derogatory name by which the Imperial occupiers called Alamigan natives. Come on. There we go. There we go. Back in Kugane, the statue of Zuiko. Depicted in majestic detail astride his rearing steed is the great warlord Zuiko, revered founder of Suinekuni. While his realm occupies the southern region of Shishu, encompassing Kugane, it must be noted that the port city's administration alone falls under the Bakufu jurisdiction. Rakuza District. By special permission from the Bakufu, this commercial district enjoys considerably relaxed trade restrictions. Wares find their way here from the world over, as do visitors of all persuasions, who have no shortage of amusements and hostelries to keep them entertained and rested in turn. Tenkonto. In the Far Eastern tongue, Tenkonto means aetheryte. Since ancient times in Hingashi, the construction and maintenance of these devices have been the exclusive domain of the Onishishu, a collective of skilled craftsmen who jealously guard their secrets. As a portal into Kugane, the area is kept under strict surveillance by the Sekisei Gumi. Kugane of Hunakura. Founded under the auspices of Kugane's Lord Bugyo, this facility specializes in the construction of smaller crafts and the repair of visiting vessels. Accordingly, the shipwrights employed here are versed not only in local shipbuilding traditions, but in foreign techniques as well. Back in the Ruby Sea, Shisui of the Violet Tides. Hidden away at the bottom of the Turquoise Trench, this magnificent palace is home to the Ruby Princess, leader of those rain who dwell beneath the waves. While its beauty can be appreciated from afar, special permission is required to enter the grounds, a privilege seldom granted. East Authored Coastline. Blessed by the bounty of the Ruby Sea, the eastern coastline of Authored has long boasted a flourishing fishing trade, and villages like Isari are a common sight. The region also abounds in natural beauty, as numerous poems throughout the ages will attest. Crick. For the longest time, folks gave these shores a wide berth for fear of the Kami, who they believed erected the enigmatic tower known as Heaven on High. The pirates of the Confederacy harbored no such fears, however, and one day they claimed the land for their own and established an outpost. Then back in Yanja, Imperial Hypersonic Assault Craft. I don't know what L is, but whatever that is, and then 23. The letters emblazoned on its rusted fuselage mark it as the 23rd craft of the 12th Imperial Legion. Dispatched to Doma in a bid to suppress the rebellion, witnesses say that it was brought down by the Vulpine Guardian of Yanja, to sink to its watery grave at the bottom of the One River. And finally, back in the Azim Steppe, Mol Ilo, the current home of the Mol, one of the many Zayla tribes that roam the Azim Steppe. Being nomads, their stay here is but temporary, and the turn of the seasons will see them strike camp in search of greener pastures for their livestock. Though quite sturdy when erected, the yurts are designed for ease of relocation. Moai statue. Similar statues are said to be found scattered across the world, but it is not known who made them, nor to what end. The absence of horns and the position of the ears have led to believe that they were fashioned by heroes in their own likeness, but there is as of yet no conclusive evidence. Shadowbringers. The Rotunda, in the Crystarium. Upon stepping foot inside the Crystarium, one is greeted by the sight of a stately domed structure, walkways and hallways branching away from its walls like arteries from a beating heart. Constructed of elegant black iron and sheets of shimmering crystal, it is in the visitor's heart that this building is like to remain. Musica Universalis. The largest marketplace in the Crystarium. Though perhaps overly grand in title, Musica Universalis is nevertheless an impressive sight. Its shelves groan under the weight of overwhelming variety, including wares manufactured by the crystalline mean and exotic goods imported from locales as distant as Kalusia and Amarang. The Cabinet of Curiosity. This towering vault contains countless scrolls, tomes, and moldering manuscripts salvaged from the furthest reaches of Norbrand. Representing the grammarian branch of the Trivarium, the cabinet welcomes visitors in search of anything from the most complex academic texts to the illustrated works of children. Rapture. Found in the northern district of the Crystarium, these elegant towers serve as a myriad of functions. For refugees of the Flood, Rapture provided not only dwellings, workshops, and defensive facilities, but also a much-needed reprieve from the prevailing sense of despair and constant danger. Temenos Rookery. Managed almost exclusively by the Zune, this rookery echoes with the sounds of creatures great and small, from the clucks of chickens to the quez of chocobos. Said to describe a sacred enclosure, the name is a reference to the legendary roosts of the Amaro. And indeed, many an Amaro is raised from egg to adult within the rookery's well-tended grounds. In Yulmore, the Glory Gate. This grand entrance leads into the buttressed lair of Yulmore, a sudden, jarring shift into a world of splendor. Crowds of hopeful petitioners yearn for the chance to pass through its iron-bound doors, but the path to glory is far narrower than the width of the gate would suggest. The Derelicts. This shanty town provides shelter for the destitute masses which huddle around the base of Yulmore. Many have built shacks with planks scavenged from the derelicts, sea vessels left to rot once the flood of light made the oceans impassable, while others simply squat in whatever remains of the ship's broken hulls. Yulmoran Army Headquarters. The offices of the vaunted Yulmoran military, though once ensconced in the canopy above, the change in policy which accompanied Lord Vothry's investiture as ruler saw the army fall in prominence, its officers relegated to the mid-layer chambers which once served as the city's jail. The Beehive. The Beehive is a place of noise and excitement, a little sting to invigorate the safe, pampered lives of Yulmore's free citizens. Regardless of gender, this establishment's bondage workers are often called honeybees, while the owner reigns above them as queen. Moving on to Lakeland. Fort Job. Once the forward base of a long-faded knightly order, these ruins were repurposed to serve as a defensive outpost for the Crystarium Guard. The architectural remnants of the Church of the First Light now merely hint at the majesty of a bygone era. Redisca's Round, located in the center of Lakeland, this watchtower is named in honor of a soldier who saved countless lives when he warned of a flying swarm of sin eaters. The soldier himself was slain in battle, having chosen to remain at the tower and delay the eaters' pursuit. Laxenloft. In the old tongue of the elves, Laxen is the word for Lakeland, and it is here that the region's erstwhile king set his throne. The castle is also infamous for the site of a historical conflict where the Shadowkeeper led a force of elven dissidents into a final bloody uprising. The Austral Imperative. The well-preserved remnants of a fortress dating back to the glory days of Lakeland. This opposing structure was named in honor of one Sir Austral, who, according to the tales, ordered his men to stand their ground against a ravening horde of sin eaters. The knight himself refused to fall, holding off the abominations until the small folk had reached safe refuge. The Hour of Certain Durance. These crumbling ruins are all that remain of a Lakeland prison. To the east, at the base of the cliff, can be seen another memory of the past, the domiciles of the prison wardens. Once known by a less somber name, Mortal Irons, is thought to better reflect the settlement's abandoned state and the transient fate of its residents. Sullen. Weed, Brick, Knot, and Lap, all good non-binary names, the fishing village of Sullen sprawls across these 4 small islands, its bridges connecting each location to the next, and thence to the shore of the source itself. The settlement's name, it seems, was agreed upon as a self-deprecating nod to the oft-creased brows of its resident fishermen. Moving on to Kaluja. Cracked Shell Beach. When questioned on the rather prosaic name of this coastline, the inhabitants of the nearby still tides simply point to the carpet of broken seashells. In earlier days, they say the beach was crowded with the comings and goings of local fishermen, but now it is mostly the boots of barbaric hobgoblins leaving tracks along the pebbled shore. White Oil Falls. This waterfall marks the midpoint of Watts River. The sluggish current sends water over the cliff with little force, the cascade cleaving closely to the rock as it plunges down from an impressive height. Upon observing this almost viscous flow, a renowned poet is said to have likened the falls to an enormous trickle of oil. Gatetown. Gatetown is a haphazard mess of shacks and lean-tos, the result of refugees throwing up shelters as they await their chance to embrace the comforts of Yulmore. Though living conditions can best be described as abysmal, The regular distribution of meal and minimal risk of eater attacks has only seen the population increase over time. Right. A farming village in the southern reaches of Kalusia, the residents of Wright have refused the largesse of Yulmore, preferring instead to subsist on barley, vegetables, and other crops cultivated through time-honored methods. Their independence cost them dearly, however, when the appearance of a stray sin-eater ended in unspeakable slaughter. The ladder. This enormous mechanism facilitates travel between Kalusia's lowlands and highlands. Its gears once driven by the tireless Talos of Daedalus Stoneworks, the apparatus fell into disrepair after said company retired its operations in the region, a development which all but halted trade with the Highland dwarves. Tomra, one of the dwarven settlements which dot the slopes of Mount Golg. Tomra is home to a sizable branch of the Thal family. Every building is constructed on a scale to cater to the diminutive inhabitants, giving taller races the impression of a village built in miniature. The Duergar's Teal? The far end of the Dwarven Hollows opens into a great crater-like expanse. Geysers here spew volcanically heated water high into the air, spraying the uncaring dwarves as they mine deposits of sulfur and other valuable minerals. Onto Amarang, the Red Sarai. This Amara roost was established by Crystarian merchants plying their trade in Amarang. Tucked within the foreboding walls of Khazar-Sharl, the waypoint and its stockpiled goods are well protected from both predators and windblown sands. Mord Souk. The Mord have long dwelled in Amarang, and the souk, or city, serves as a marketplace to display the curious wares they gather from every corner of the Badlands. Merchants and collectors from across Norvent can be seen here purchasing ores, oddities, and the relics of Nabatha Rang. The pristine palace of Malik. In the common tongue, Malik translates into majestic king, and it was within this royal residence that was housed the core of Nabatha Rang's political and military might. When the flood came, however, it was halted moments too late. Half the palace toppled before a titanic wave of light like a sand castle caught by the tide. Mount Biren Mines. The shafts carved into the side of Mount Biren, which were the center of a large-scale mining operation which employed the relentless strength of an army of Talos. As is the case with Garrick, Kelk, and many other places in the region, Biren was a name taken from a Ronso of historical note. Twine. In days past, Nabatha Rang contracted a Talos engineer to establish his mining railway, and these cabins were built to provide lodgings for the laborers who would lay the trolley tracks. The settlement was later maintained as a miners' village, but its dwindling population has mirrored the steady decline of the mining industry. Kelk. The ruins of a Ronso settlement. Residents abandoned Kelk for the cities long before the flood arrived, and thus it is known amongst scavengers as a prime location for finding trinkets and relics untouched by conflict. In Ilmeg, there is Lida Liran. Finding it abandoned by its former inhabitants following the events of the flood, the Pixies have claimed this Vobertite village as their own. The Fae has continued the villagers' practice of keeping sheep, making use of the weed-choked pens to raise and milk their woolly livestock. The Bookman's Shelves. Lately the borrowed residence of a foreign scholar, this manor once belonged to a Vobertite lord known for the eclectic nature of his hobbies. In a miraculous turn of events, the noble's extensive collection of books and academic apparatus have largely been left undisturbed by curious pixie hands. Pla Eni. Known for their harmonious relationship with the now faded kingdom of Vobert, the Numo people reside in this cavern under the leadership of their elder Weed Ankh. As well as being the name of the village Pla Eni. Pla Eni is a variety of mushroom the Numo grow to incredible size, large enough for them to hollow out and use as comfortable dwellings. Deepwood Swim. In the time of Vobert, when Ligaia was yet known as Granus Licht, these ruins were a thriving castle town. Now they languished at the bottom of Longmire Lake, submerged in the water drawn forth by the Froth as the ferries laid claim to Ilmeg. Ligia, once the royal seat of Vobert, Ligia later became a prison for Titania when the Fairy King succumbed to the ether of a slain Light Warden. The castle's name has its origin in both the Fairy and Vobertite tongues, the words thought to translate as the wings of dreams. St. Fathric's Temple. This secluded mountain shelf was favored by St. Fathric of the Church of the First Light as a place to perform rites of penance. Amongst the fairies of Ilmeg, only the Numo would remember or understand the significance of the location's history. Now in the Raktika Greatwood, Fort Gon. Built by the Knights Blessed, little now remains of this wooden fortification. By all accounts, a fire broke out during a Cineater attack, and even before the violence had ended, the compound had collapsed into a charred ruin. Survivors of the slaughter had no other choice but to relocate to the nearby Slitherbow. Fruit of the Protector. Cradled within the branches of a giant tree, this immense crystal boulder is suspended above the waters of Lake Tusimekta. The Fruit of the Protector, as it is known, has been the subject of worship since the time of the Ronkin Empire, and even now folk tell legend of the great entity believed to be cocooned within. The Covered Halls of Dwaddle. One of the sacred temples built by the Ronkins, these stone halls were safeguarded by a sect of priests even after the fall of the Empire. The rising waters of the lake, however, could not be denied, and rumors persist of a secret treasure which was swallowed along with the temple. Lazado's Conquest. According to Ronkin legend, the great steps of this waterfall were carved by the giant Lazado. Historians speculate that this mythical figure was, in fact, an early form of Talos, and likely the selfsame construct responsible for building Ronka's resplendent places of worship. Fano. Unfailingly loyal to the last known commands of the Ronkin Empire, the Vis of this village have protected the ruins of Raktika for countless generations. With many of its sister settlements destroyed by the Flood of Light, however, Fano now faces an uncertain fate in its location. The Morning Stars. These pyramids were built to venerate the four chief deities of the Ronkin religion: Oxcatorl, keeper of the flame; Oxcharl, keeper of the winds; Ixlokwa, bringer of rain; and Ixanpa, bringer of the harvest. For the inhabitants of Fano, guardians of Ronka's heritage, there are few sites more sacred. Down in the Tempest. The Ondo Cups. Hidden at the bottom of the Tempest, this Ondo settlement was established by those few foragers who escaped the flood's destruction of their homeland. The Cups has its origin in the hollows on the shore, which remained filled with seawater even when the tide recedes, a symbol of the Ondo's fortunate refuge. The Workbench. This facility was built by a Crystarium native, a genius artisan seeking to escape from the distraction of the outside world. Although he simply calls this place the Workbench, the mundane naming is at odds with the fantastical concept of a forge construction moms beneath the ocean. Where the Dry return. When the Ondo beheld the coral within this cavern, its crimson branches put them in mind of a land dweller's veins. Thus began the legend that it was a resting place for finless ones who had perished at sea. It was not until recently, however, that folk from the surface learned the reason behind the rather ominous-sounding name. Purpure. The Ondo use the shells they gather from this cave to make dye, the purple hue prized as a symbol of nobility. It is said that Yulmor's obsession with the color purple can be traced back to these underwater origins. Amarat. If Ondo testimony is to be believed, this vast city simply appeared overnight. Unlike the ancient remnants which endure silently on the sea floor, its illuminated towers are of a decidedly different nature, a meticulously new and vibrant metropolis, compelling in its mystery. And on to Endwalker, the final section. In Old Charlian, the Levier Estate. This elegant mansion has stood for 3 centuries and is a treasured example of Charlene's architectural heritage. For generations, it has served as the home of House Levier, a noble family from which has arisen many distinguished foreign members. Scholar's Harbor. Although known for its distinctively curving piers, the most prominent feature of the city's port is, without a doubt, the towering statue of Thaliak. Charlene's patron deity faces outwards towards the water, his eternal gaze watching over every vessel which arrives and departs by sea. The Forum. In order to accommodate the 99 members of the Forum, the seating in the assembly hall is arranged in the shape of a spiral. Viewed from above, one is reminded of the symbol emblazoned on the Charlean flag, the nautilus shell that keeps the waters of knowledge. Nomenon. The pride of the studium and parent institution to the Great Google Library, this massive collection of scrolls and tomes is the largest of its kind. Knowledge from every corner of the world is collected here, and efforts to compile the Bibliotheca Historica, the ultimate repository of wisdom, is an endeavor without end. The Rostra. This building houses the assembly hall where the Forum debates Charlean national policy. Once a simple outdoor plaza, the Rostra would ring with heated discussion through rain, wind, and worse. Following a death by lightning strike, however, plans were drawn up for the imposing stone structure which now crowns Arkad's design. Ooh. Really disconnected. Journey's End. Occupying the eastern side of Old Charlean, the residential district takes its name from the tale of the city's original settlers. History tells that it is upon this hill, alongside a colony of Ox, where the refugees of the Great Flood chose to build their new homes. Learners Meet. This public lecture hall and phenomenon is open to student pupils and Charlean citizens alike. When prominent professors are scheduled to take the lectern, crowds of aspiring academics and established scholars often fill the room to capacity. Over in Razat Han, Reveda Fibers. This state-sponsored workshop is famed for producing silk thread of exquisite quality. Its sericulture and weaving techniques were once jealously guarded secrets, but security measures have become lax since Ul'dah and other nations have begun manufacturing their own silk fabrics. Balshan Bazaar. If commerce is the lifeblood of Razat Han, then these roofed market stalls would be its heart. Balshan himself was a legendary merchant who made a vast fortune through trade with other nations. It was his final wish that his estate be spent on the construction of a great bazaar, ever-flowing with coin and wares. Nilapala Nourishments. Hamsa were originally reared for the sole purpose of harvesting their venom, until a breeder by the name of Nilapala devised a technique to remove the creature's toxin glands. The birds suddenly became a viable source of tender, succulent meat, and before long, Hamsa dishes were considered a staple of Hanish cuisine. Merid's Mahane. Owned and run by the eponymous Merid, this Mahane offers light meals and beverages, with the main draw being its myriad varieties of liquor distilled by local alchemists. Foreign visitors are often entranced by the stage performers, whose movements incorporate elements of traditional Thabnarian dance. Megaduda. The palace of the satrap serves not only as a residence, but also as the center of Razat Han's government, meaning cloud messenger in the old Arkasadara tongue. Megaduda was built on the summit of a rocky megalith, its great doors admitting an endless stream of servants, petitioners, and official visitors. Alzadal's Peace. Within this mausoleum is interred the immortal remains of Alzadal, leader of the Ari tribe which sailed to Thavnair from the mainland. By joining the might of his people with Argasadara, Alzadal tipped the scales against the Gajasura, bringing an end to the internecine war of the Matanga tribes. Reveda Fibers Rooftop Garden. Hidden from view atop the workshops of Reveda Fibers is a squat golden statue of Agaja, surrounded by a garden of mulberry bushes. Sitting upon the statue is said to bring good fortune, the proof of which is tested on one as one wanders about the unfenced rooftop. Moving on to Labyrinthos. The Path of Artifice. This massive lift is one of several which connects the surface of Old Charlian to the subterranean research and storage complex of Labyrinthos. At the end of its descent, the mechanism opens up onto the upper Acrinthos, from where passengers or cargo continue onwards towards the other facilities. Thalmazane. Thalmazane, or wonder, is the emotion one feels at the onset of the quest for knowledge. Such a quest was begun here, in an effort to pierce the mysteries of the ethereal sea. Yet what researchers encountered was the will of Heidelin herself. The site has become a shipyard where they would construct an ark destined to reach the very moon. Marial Agronomics. In this experimental crop farm, researchers explore agricultural methodology and study of growth and of seeds collected from various regions across the world. It is named after Marial, one of the 7 archons instrumental in Charlian's foundation, whose botanical knowledge helped enrich the island's barren soils and resolve food shortages. Troglophile's Deep. This cavern serves as a breeding ground for certain subterranean species deemed vital to ongoing research efforts, including a study into creating fertilizer from the subject's phosphorus-rich excrement. Troglofauna reproduction is, however, an inexact science, routinely resulting in excessive numbers of cave-dwelling offspring spilling out into nearby habitats. Charlian Hamlet. Located in the Central Circuit, this self-contained settlement provides housing for foreign-authorized researchers. Due to the highly confidential nature of the projects and a strictly enforced information protocol, the men and women here are rarely permitted egress to the city proper. Over in Thavnair, Yedlamad. Meaning New Harbor in a language brought to the island's shores by mainland settlers, Yedlamad is Thavnair's main port town. Owing to the shallow waters surrounding the island, however, larger trading vessels are forced to anchor at Alnair and ferry over to the harbor in smaller boats before making their way to Radzadan. Kadja's Footsteps. Known as the mother of Kriegstans, Kadjaya is honored in both name and form at this open-air stage for dancers. Those who carry on her legacy perform here beneath the stone-carved likeness, strutting and twirling for the glory of their gods and ancestors. Giant Skull Grounds. Quarried here by the wagon load, the purple streaked stone known as Giant Skull is one of Thavnair's most coveted exports. Incredibly dense and possessed of high ethereal conductivity, it is prized not only as a building material, but also as a component in the crafting of unyielding arms and armor, and the brewing of alchemical concoctions. The Shroud of the Samga. Dense jungle vegetation grows wild and unchecked across a wide band of Thavnair's inland region. Amongst the trees, however, can be found a sprinkling of shrines and temples dedicated to the pantheon of the locally worshipped gods, holy sites where once resided the rakes of the faithful. The Font of Maya. This temple was once the abode of an order of Arkasadara ascetics who sought the divine enlightenment of Maya. Abandoned for a stronghold deeper in the jungle, the structure now sits derelict, half submerged in rainwater. The Great Work. Even in Thavnair, the birthplace of alchemy, the practitioners of House Daymere are renowned for their craft of their concoctions. It was they who founded the settlement of the Great Work, and to this day, many talented alchemists choose to reside here and carry on the family's peerless endeavors. On to Garlemald is Tertium. Tertium is the third station along the rail network which serves the imperial capital of Garlemald. Equipped as a dispatch yard with generators and other facilities, it was taken over and fortified by the remnants of the First Legion following the city's fall into ruination. Turn to Platform G. This mining platform is designed to pump vast quantities of cerulean-rich water from the icy depths of Cerulia Ingens. 6 more rigs were built within the region for the same purpose, but the eruption of civil war brought all operations to a standstill. The Runaway Train. A Mark 49 passenger train was forced off the tracks by tempered soldiers as it attempted to flee the capital. Its twisted bulk left to rust in the ice and snow. Only nobles, high-ranking officers, or citizens with special dispensation were permitted to ride this exclusive service. Shut up. Tenaculum Imperialis. Once the center of government for the Republic of Garlemald, this stately building would later house the Emperor's Advisory Council. Within its walls, countless campaigns were planned and executed, decisions that would result in untold bloodshed and bring ever greater prosperity to the Empire. Regio Urbanissima. Here did beat the heart of the Empire, a district pulsing with political, financial, and military authority. Yet these institutions, which once sought dominion of the world, now lie in ruin. Any structure not outright destroyed in the War of Succession has been torn apart, its materials cannibalized for the construction of the Tower of Babel. Forum Solius. It was in this square that Emperor Solus inspected his troops before embarking upon his second campaign into the Far East. The Imperial legions were ultimately successful in their subjugation of the Kingdom of Dalmasca, and officials celebrated the grand victory by transforming the parade ground into a commemorative public park. In Elpis, the Chthonic Horns. The researchers of this small facility are unlike their colleagues in that they seek to manifest new creations without the aid of creation magics. Their natural breeding program pairs creatures with different characteristics, relying purely on chance to conceive heretofore unimagined possibilities. Metabasios Thalassai. Annexed to Ctesis Hyperborea, this facility is mainly concerned with the observation and evaluation of sea life. Although its construction appears too narrow to support such an ambitious project, the building's interior harbors 6 separate marine habitats, each painstakingly recreated via arcane means. Leith. Following a process of exhaustive testing, a creation deemed unsuitable for release into the world is brought to this lake, where its life energies are magically unbound and allowed to dissipate. It is at once the most beautiful as well as the most sorrowful locale in Elpis. Ctesis Hyperborea. The most expensive facility in Elpis, Ctesis Hyperborea, is a sprawling complex of magically simulated environs. Concepts awaiting evaluation are brought here for the last stages of observation, and upon meeting the appropriate criteria, are finally released into the world at large. Anagnorisis. Named for an ancient word meaning recognition or discovery, this settlement houses those whose job it is to assess the creations admitted to Ctesis Hyperborea. These observers study every aspect of their charges and determine if a concept will add to or detract from the environment for which it was designed. At Mare Lamentorum, Hedonia Knolls. This lifelike face of enormous scale appears to peek out from the surface of Mare Lamentorum. Obviously no natural formation, it is nevertheless unknown who carved this piece, or indeed, whose features it is meant to resemble. One thing is certain, the model would not find the depiction particularly flattering. The Caratorium. This district was specifically designed to sustain the continued existence of mankind, and, more importantly, as a wonderful place to cultivate the miraculous orange vegetables known as carrots, because let's face it, any trial or trouble becomes easier to bear when one holds a carrot in one's paw. The Greatest Ensvale. The architect of this district envisioned an ideal forest, a place where the new residents of the moon could sit or wander amidst a boreal splendor. The fact that it resembles a forest in only the most abstract sense of the word detracts somewhat from the intended effect. Well, it's the thought that counts. Heimdall's Last Sight. The ancient Aliens launched this Heimdall-class vessel into the heavens to monitor Bahamut's prison Dalamud. When that colossal satellite awakened around this time of the Seventh Umbrella Calamity, the observation craft was shot down as it attempted to halt the activation process. The Watcher's Palace. A structure of enduring design, this brooding tower stands resolute in its vigil of untold millennia. The ethereal conductive plate encircling its spires reminiscent of a certain architectural style, one found only in the depths of the ocean on the first. In Ultima Thule, Stigma 1. The prime decision-making authority for an entire machine civilization, this mechanism has been faithfully reconstructed in Ostrakhan Decahexe. Originally hailed as a strategic matrix Alpha 1, catastrophic damage inflicted upon its systems resulted in its currently assigned designation. Ostrakhan Decahexe. This sector is a recreation of the 16th civilization encountered by Median and her sisters, although definitive answers may remain elusive. It is speculated that the reconstruction echoes the Alphatron star as it appears in its last years, or perhaps even an Omicron outpost built upon an invaded world. Ostrakhan Tria. This sector is a recreation of the third civilization encountered by Medion and her sisters. Known collectively as the Ea, the entities which reside here have cast off their corporeal shells and endure internally in purely spiritual form. An awareness of the universe's inevitable end, however, has blighted their immortal gift with existential misery. Ostrakhan Deca Octo. This sector is a recreation of the 18th civilization encountered by Medion and her sisters. Ruined and desolate, the world it represents was once the abode of a proud race of dragons who were driven to extinction in a titanic struggle against mechanical invaders from the Alphatron star. Finally, Ostrakhan Henna. This sector is a recreation of the first civilization encountered by Medion and her sisters. The structures are whole, but hauntingly empty, as if all life had come to an abrupt end. And that's the entire sightseeing log as of to this point. I was planning on going more towards like 4 or 5, but I think I'm just gonna pick up the fish guide in the next installment because I have been talking constantly. But thank you for popping in. The VOD will be up on my channel for anybody that missed it and would like to listen to the sightseeing log. And I'll be back in like 3 hours for raid.